Right now on Good Morning America First Look, emergencies declared as much of the country braces for what could be a historic ice and snowstorm stretching 2,000 miles. The biggest concern right now from forecasters.
Breaking overnight reaction as a jury acquits the former police officer accused of not responding quickly enough to the deadly school massacre in Uvalde, Texas.
President Trump announces a framework for a deal on the future of U.S. involvement in Greenland. What that deal could entail.
Emotional moments in court as a Texas man is exonerated more than 70 years after he was executed for a crime he did not commit. The message from his son, who fought for decades to prove his father's innocence.
Plus, the heroic rescue after this fiery crash. We hear from the deputies who risked their lives.
It was the largest jewelry heist in U.S. history, and now a shocking twist in the investigation.
Plus, the art discovered inside a cave that could rewrite human history.
And Buffalo Bills fans say they've had enough, how they're fighting back after another heartbreaking loss.
From ABC News, this is Good Morning America First Look.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm Hannah Battah.
I'm Sophie Flay. We begin with the looming ice and snowstorm that some fear could be the worst in modern history in some areas.
The Department of Homeland Security is warning people to take this storm seriously. This morning, urgent preparations now underway as more than half the country braces for what could be the most crippling storm in years. The system will stretch some 2,000 miles from the south to the northeast, potentially bringing dangerous ice and feet of snow to millions over the weekend. Emergencies already declared in the Carolinas. Forecasters there warning this could be one of the most historic ice storms in modern history, with the potential for 12 straight hours of freezing rain, weighing down trees, causing widespread power outages. Another factor, brutal cold. It could feel like 35 below zero in Chicago this weekend. This post online warning about exploding trees has gone viral, describing how extreme cold can make sap freeze and wood contract, causing trees to suddenly split. The predicted snow and ice threatening to bring travel to a halt. Many areas already facing low supplies of road salt after a busy winter.
We noticed that halfway through the year, they were limiting the amount that we were able to bring into the store.
Major airlines are already waiving rebooking fees for impacted travelers. In Texas, some residents are racing to buy portable generators to stay warm, hoping to avoid a repeat of the storm that left millions without power for days back in 2021. During that storm, Senator Ted Cruz faced scrutiny for taking a family trip to Mexico. A photo this week of Cruz flying to California quickly spread online, but his office says Cruz will return before the storm. Homeland Security issued a warning urging people to stock up at least 3 days of food, water, and medications.
The police officer accused of not responding quickly enough to the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, has now been acquitted of all charges. Families of some of the 19 children killed that day reacted overnight to the verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Adrian Gonzalez, not guilty.
After 7 hours of deliberations, a jury last night acquitted former Uvalde, Texas school police officer Adrian Gonzalez on all charges. He faced 29 counts of child endangerment over his response to the shooting massacre at Robb Elementary in 2022, one for each of the 19 students and 2 teachers killed, and for the 10 others injured. Gonzalez breaking down as the verdict was read, later expressing his gratitude.
Thank you for the jury for considering all the evidence and making that verdict.
Prosecutors argued that Gonzalez failed to stop or even delay the shooter that day and failed to follow his training. It took 77 minutes before law enforcement finally stormed the classroom to end the gunman's rampage. But all along, his lawyers argued Gonzalez was being scapegoated for the failure of other officers, insisting Gonzalez was one of the first officers to enter the school and evacuated kids as other law enforcement arrived.
They're trying to feed you a coward sandwich. They want you to eat a big coward sandwich and say that Adrian's the one that gave it to you. The problem is, it is wrapped around 2 slices of bread of bravery. That's the problem. You have this coward sandwich, but you have bravery and bravery around it. The bravery of driving into trouble, thinking there was a shooter. Only one, didn't set up perimeter, goes into the trouble, into the eye of the storm. And then he's one of the first 5 that goes in the building. Takes rounds.
Several victims' family members were visibly upset by the verdict, many of them telling ABC's John Quinones they're shocked and outraged.
I mean, we had a little hope, but it wasn't enough. They refer to the shooter as a monster, as an animal, rightfully so. There's no disputing that. But something rose from that day, and that was another monster, a monster that came from fear, hesitation, and inaction. That is the other monster.
Gonzalez?
Gonzalez is the other monster, absolutely. All these family members that came here for nothing but justice, right? They were let down. You saw the agony, the pain that they were in. One more hit. How many more hits can you take?
The former school police chief also faces charges. He's awaiting trial.
Now to President Trump and his potential deal concerning the future of Greenland. New details are coming to light after Trump suddenly withdrew his threat to impose new tariffs on Europe. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has the details. Nicole, good morning.
Well, Hannah, good morning. After weeks of escalating tensions, President Trump appears to be lowering the temperature in his bid to take over Greenland, announcing a framework for a deal which could reportedly mirror a long-standing agreement in a different part of the world.
President Trump.
This morning, an apparent pivot from President Trump.
Deal that people jumped at, really fantastic for the USA.
After weeks of threatening a hostile takeover of Greenland, the president announcing he's now reached a key framework of a deal with the Secretary General of NATO.
I think it's going to be a very good deal for the United States.
Speaking to world leaders in Switzerland, Trump backing down on his threat to use military force to seize the Arctic island and dropping his threats to impose new tariffs on allies who oppose a U.S. takeover. Greenland, a territory of NATO member Denmark, is home to fewer than 60,000 people, but it sits in a strategically important location between the U.S. and Russia and contains massive deposits of rare earth metals. Instead of buying the island outright, the New York Times reports the U.S. is now discussing obtaining key pockets of sovereignty on Greenland.
The ultimate long term, I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and other assets.
It would reportedly be a setup similar to what the British have on the island nation of Cyprus. Sovereign bases where the U.S. could control the response to threats from Russia and China without owning the whole country. The U.S. does already have a base on Greenland and operated as many as 17 there during World War II. Back home, Republican allies say Trump's shift proves his hostile threats were just a negotiation tactic.
He literally wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. Different people have different negotiation strategies, but Donald Trump has been exceedingly successful in his negotiations around the world.
But the president's speech in Switzerland yesterday also sparking new feuds with allies.
Without us, most of the countries don't even work.
First, Canada. Trump taking aim at Prime Minister Mark Carney after Carney said there was a, quote, rupture in the world order.
I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
And the government of France now responding after Trump claimed he forced President Emmanuel Macron to raise drug prices to help lower costs for Americans, describing a phone call with Macron.
You're going to do it. I don't want to go public with it, but you may make me do that. No, Donald, I will do it.
But this morning, the French government calls that fake news. And on Wall Street, stocks recovered yesterday as the dispute over Greenland appears to be calming down, but this battle isn't over. Danish officials are still insisting that Denmark's red lines be respected. Hannah.
Nicole, thank you. A Texas man has just been exonerated more than 70 years after he was executed for a crime he did not commit. Officials in Dallas now acknowledge that Tommy Lee Walker was wrongly convicted at age 19 for the murder of a white woman in Dallas. They say one of the officers involved in the case was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Police also suppressed evidence. Walker's son, just 2 years old when his father was executed, fought for decades to prove his father's innocence and had this message in court.
Love everybody. In spite of what happened to my father, I still love people.
The decision brought many in the courtroom to tears, including the district attorney.
This waterfront restaurant stood no chance as powerful waves from a major storm hit southern Europe, battering the coast of Sicily. The waves, up to 26 feet, canceled ferry service in the region, and hurricane-force winds left a trail of damage. Closer to home, let's check your Thursday forecast.
Good morning. It's the calm before the storm. Pretty quiet weather map today, but you see the Arctic air getting into the northern tier. That's going to collide with Gulf and Pacific moisture. That'll give life to our storm over the weekend. Winter storm watch is already up across the south from later Friday into later Saturday. We'll see snow, ice, and rain breaking out later Friday. But look at the potential ice storm from Texas into Arkansas and into parts of the southeast and Tennessee Valley. We could have damaging ice from Dallas all the way to Charlotte. And then by the time we get to the end of the weekend, it's snow climbing up the coast along the I-95 corridor. Could be more than 6 or 12 inches of snow. I'm ABC News meteorologist Lee Goldberg.
Coming up, the investigation into the largest jewelry heist in U.S. history taking a shocking turn.
But first, the heroic rescue after this fiery crash. We hear from the deputies who risked their lives.
And what we've learned about the kind of warrants that immigration agents are now using and why they're controversial.
We're back with a fiery scene north of Houston. A man trapped in this burning vehicle after he was hit by a wrong-way driver. 2 officers, along with the tow truck drivers and others, worked together to free the victim while facing intense heat from that growing fire.
It was just a constant back and forth for everybody trying to get in there, grab whatever part of this man that we could, and pull him out the window, simultaneously trying to avoid being burned.
The only thing that was going through my mind is I have to get this guy out, and any way I could, that's what I was going to do. The only way we could get him out was through the window.
Really brave. The man is in critical but stable condition. The wrong-way driver did not survive.
Now to the federal immigration crackdown spreading to another state, just as we learn about the kind of warrants that agents are using. One senator now demanding an investigation. Here's ABC's Andrea Fujii.
New clashes in Minneapolis. Federal officers firing pepper spray and tear gas at protesters confronting Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, preventing agents from entering convenience stores during their ongoing immigration crackdown. Bovino himself seen tossing a smoke canister into a crowd. This as a new whistleblower complaint comes to light. It reveals a memo released internally by Immigration and Customs Enforcement suggesting that federal agents can rely on administrative warrants to make arrests instead of judicial warrants, meaning a judge does not have to sign off for agents to enter a suspect's home. The Department of Homeland Security insists there is legal precedent, but immigration advocates claim it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
ICE is saying we're going to blatantly ignore case law from the U.S. Supreme Court that says an independent party must make a decision at the judiciary to issue a warrant, and we're just going to rely on our own warrants signed off by our own people to bust down a door and go into a home. The executive branch trying to act like the legislative branch and making up laws and policies as they go along.
In response, Homeland Security saying every illegal alien who DHS serves administrative warrants had full due process and a final order of removal from an immigration judge. The officers issuing these administrative warrants also have found probable cause. But at least one U.S. senator is now calling for an investigation. Meanwhile, the immigration crackdown now spreading to the state of Maine. Agents saying they're searching for 1,400 targets accused of multiple crimes. As for the use of tear gas against protesters, an appeals court is allowing officers to use the tactic for crowd control. Vice President J.D. Vance visits Minneapolis today to speak with local leaders. Sophie, Hannah.
Andrea, thanks. Coming up, singer Phil Collins revealing his health struggles, why he's under 24-hour care.
Also ahead, the real-life story being compared to the movie Catch Me If You Can. The man arrested for pretending to be an airline pilot. That's one of Phil Collins' best-known hits, and now the singer is updating fans on his health struggles. He's now under 24-hour care with a live-in nurse. Collins, who turns 75 next week, says he needed 5 knee surgeries and cannot walk without crutches. He's also suffered from COVID and had kidney issues, forcing him to stop drinking.
A man accused of posing as an airline pilot to obtain hundreds of free flights is now in custody in Hawaii. Prosecutors say Dallas Bakornik was a flight attendant for a Canadian airline for 2 years before using fake IDs from the carrier to fly for free on 3 U.S. airlines. The case drawing comparisons to the movie Catch Me If You Can. Court papers don't identify the 3 airlines involved. Bakornik has pleaded not guilty to wire fraud charges.
A shocking development in connection with a major jewelry heist. One of the suspects just avoided trial. It's been described as the largest jewelry theft in U.S. history. But now one of the alleged thieves won't be facing trial. That's because he was suddenly deported by U.S. immigration agents. Prosecutors and even his own lawyer say they had no heads up. The thieves back in 2022 tracked a Brinks truck for 300 miles from a jewelry trade show near San Francisco to a highway rest stop. While one guard slept and another was inside the rest stop, the thieves pounced, making off with 24 bags of diamonds, gold, gems, and watches worth more than $100 million.
We had a lock on here. We had a lock on here, yeah. And it's gone.
Video captured the moment the guards realized the bags were nowhere in sight.
I counted 49. 49? Out of how many? 73. That's a lot. Yeah.
The jewels are still missing, but investigators eventually charged 7 suspects. Now, the Los Angeles Times reports one of the 7, identified as Jason Nalon Presilla Flores, who is facing up to 15 years in prison, has been deported to Ecuador, reportedly blindsiding prosecutors. The victims, including many mom-and-pop jewelers who lost their life savings in the heist, are furious. Their lawyer saying, "For our clients who lost their life's work, this outcome exposes a gap in the system that deserves transparency," saying the owners of all that jewelry still missing are now left without answers and without a verdict.
Officials say Flores represented himself at his immigration hearing, admitted to the allegations, and requested to leave the U.S. immediately.
Coming up, big news about Vanna White.
Plus, Buffalo Bills fans say they have had enough, how they're now fighting back after another terrible loss. Time to check the pulse. We start with a display of ancient human creativity.
Scientists have found what's believed to be the oldest known cave painting. It's a claw-like image found in Indonesia, created about 68,000 years ago.
Scientists say this shows creativity was innate to our species and didn't just suddenly appear in Ice Age Europe. Next, Buffalo Bills fans are not saying goodbye to former head coach Sean McDermott quite yet.
They want him back. More than 14,000 people have signed an online petition to reinstate the coach who was fired after the Bills lost to Denver. The team owner says he fired McDermott after seeing quarterback Josh Allen crying after the game. Next, if you're a fan of the 4th of July hot dog eating contest, rest easy.
Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Company, which runs that contest, was just sold, but the new owner, a Chinese-owned meat company, says the contest will continue. The company, by the way, was sold for $450 million, which is what had fans thinking, okay, does that mean this is going to end? They said, nope, that's not the case.
Thank goodness.
Next, congratulations to Vanna White.
Vanna White wearing white. The Wheel of Fortune star just tied the knot, marrying her boyfriend of 14 years. The lucky groom is real estate developer John Donaldson.
Gosh, they're the most photogenic couple I have seen ever.
They're adorable. Congratulations to them. And finally, breathtaking images of the Northern Lights.
Yeah, you're going to want to look at your screen for this one. This is the view from the International Space Station. The footage was posted by a Russian cosmonaut.
He said this is what it looks like when you fly right through it. So cool. Top headlines next. Checking more top stories, former special counsel Jack Smith is set to testify publicly today on Capitol Hill. Previously, when Smith was deposed behind closed doors, he told lawmakers he had enough evidence to convict President Trump in connection with the January 6th riot at the Capitol.
Former Uvalde, Texas school police officer Adrian Gonzalez has been acquitted on all counts of child endangerment in connection with his response to the deadly school shooting in Uvalde. He was accused of waiting too long to confront the shooter.
The first defendant in the NBA betting scandal has received a 2-year prison sentence. Timothy McCormick is a self-proclaimed gambling addict. He pleaded guilty to using private information to place bets which were tied to players allegedly involved in the scheme.
Today's weather, extreme cold in the northern plains and Midwest, snow showers around the Great Lakes, and people from Texas up to the Northeast are preparing for a major winter storm this weekend. The snow, ice, and rain all starts tomorrow afternoon.
And finally, teaching kids how the United States began.
One teacher got creative. Here's Danny New.
As the U.S. gears up for its 250th birthday, educators are getting creative with their methods for teaching the American Revolution.
I found something behind the recycling bin, and it is a breakup letter.
Miss Danny Jesmith of South Carolina.
I'm going to tell you who wrote it at the end.
Has been picking up 1 million+ views online after using her own fake breakup letter as an allegory for the Declaration of Independence.
I'm definitely not afraid to get a little bit silly to get a point across.
As you can see, Danny fully commits to bits all the time for her 4th grade history class, including even recently dressing up as George Washington.
Darling, this is hard for me to write, but we need to talk.
You can hear how the students immediately ate the letter up, thinking it was all real. One commenter on TikTok writing, "You know there were a couple boys in that room who were like, oh no."
You are so controlling.
Once she was finished reading the letter, Miss Jesmith then used the opportunity to start a discussion.
Darling didn't listen to me.
The students, of course, had some feedback for Darling, a.k.a. King George III.
What kind of a relationship is this? Emotional damage.
But when it was time to reveal that this was all just an exercise,
They're gonna say, "Peace out, England. We're not gonna be a part of your country anymore."
the students were not thrilled, but their parents at least had a different reaction.
Their parents messaged me about it, and they were like, "Oh, that sounds so awesome. I wish I could have seen their face." And
okay, so parents approve of educational lying.
yes, they do. I have a great group of parents.
For the record, guys, Danny is not the first person to try this idea, and there were even comments from people online saying their teachers tried this too. But did those teachers start their letter with darling?
Boy, do I wish I had a teacher like that.
Right, the students will never forget that lesson.
No.
So cool and so creative.
That's your Good Morning America first look.
Have a great day, everyone.